Hello, everyone. My name is Vicki Palmer, and I'm the Research Services Marketing and Outreach Librarian at Longwood University. I'm here today with the Dean of the Library, Dr. Brent Roberts. Today we are celebrating Banned Books Week. This is an annual event celebrating the freedom to read. Banned Books Week brings together the entire book community in a shared support of the freedom to seek and express ideas, even those that some consider unorthodox or unpopular. Today we are talking with New York Times bestselling author Todd Parr. In 2012, Todd Parr's The Family Book was banned in an Illinois school district because of a reference to same-sex parents. Now let's learn a little bit more about Todd. Todd Parr is the author and illustrator of more than 50 books for children, including the New York Times bestselling books, the I Love You book, the Earth book, and the Thankful book. His books have received numerous awards and are available in over 18 languages throughout the world. Todd actively supports multiple charities and organizations, including the Virginia Children's Book Festival, where he serves on the board of directors. He currently lives in Berkeley, California, with his 3 adopted pit bulls.
Welcome, Todd. It's great to have you for this Banned Books Week conversation. And like we were saying before we started the recording, I am a huge fan. We are, of course, today talking about the book of yours that was banned, the family book. And we, of course, later, we want to hear from you about what it was like to get banned and how you felt and how that impacted your writing. But I want to start with a kind of a separate question, and that is, I've read a lot of your books. This is one of my favorites, the I Love You book. And there are some pretty offensive things in your other books as well, pretty racy, if I might say. There's this one, I Love You. It says, when you're stinky. And there are these stink fumes coming out this baby's diaper, which could be offensive to some people. And probably my favorite book of yours is It's Okay to Make Mistakes, where it talks about it's okay to wear 2 different socks. And it shows the dog with different socks on its head, and it even has a potentially offensive pair of underwear on the line. And in one of your other books, as you know, it says it's okay to be in the bathtub with macaroni, which is just explosive. So really my first question to you, Todd, is did it surprise you that it was the family book that was the one that was banned? And have you ever been contacted or accosted about the offensive nature of things in your other books?
No one has ever pointed out those other horrible things in my books. So you are fortunately the first one to point those things out. I yes and no surprised on the family book, because for me, it's just inclusiveness is the core about what I try and do. And to write a book about families and say a certain family description doesn't belong in it because it might be offensive would not be a Todd Parr, book. And there is no controversy there. It's like, whether you agree with it or not, there are families with 2 moms and 2 dads, and those kids struggle with their own difficulties of dealing and fitting in with that. And if they can find a book that, somewhat just brings that to the mass, like, oh, it's just matter of fact, some families have 2 moms or 2 dads. It's true, it's a given. I'm not from a family like that. I didn't invent it. But you can't, I would never exclude somebody. And I know that it's helped so many families feel that they're represented. And that book, I think it's 17 years old now. It's still one of my best-selling books, and it's nothing I do to promote it. It just finds all these people that say, hey, that's us. Or I think the bigger picture in it is just representing all different kinds of families. And it's one page in one book that seems to get, the focal point, but it's like it represents single parents. It represents maybe grandparents that are ending up raising their grandchildren. It's just, I don't know, when I grew up, I didn't have a normal life, and I thought everybody else did. And I just wanted to have this normal life. And then I realized there wasn't really such a thing. And I spent most of my time feeling that my family was just the worst, and I wanted to be in somebody else's family. And I thought, in writing that book, I don't want anybody to feel like they want to be somewhere else, that they want to be with their family and celebrate the love, no matter if it's just 2 of you, 8 of you, or you've got 2 moms and 2 dads. So for me, for that to become a hot button, didn't really surprise me, and it didn't really, and in some ways, it's just so matter of fact and so innocent, and it's the truth. Why is this such a big deal? But I get it, but I have no, even when I was on CNN over that particular incident, when that book was, the controversy that built around that, and it was a school counselor that was eventually fired, and he had been sharing that book as part of their family unit for years, and parents complained and then organized a few with the local church and spoke very loud about this, and it caused the uproar. And then, they asked me to be on CNN up against the school board superintendent and the principal. And, I was like, over this page, and I think they looked like a little ridiculous trying to explain, what they were doing. But for me, it was just like, stay true to who you are and what you do. It's like, you can't write a book about families and say a certain family doesn't fit in because someone might not agree with that. Just bottom line. So say all you want, but I'm fine.
So can I ask a follow-up question to that? So I watched that CNN clip, but the clip that I watched was cut off right when they were so they were talking to you, and then it cut off before they brought in the superintendent. When they had the 2 of you on that call together, like what did you say to that individual?
Well, first of all, we weren't supposed to be on at the same time. We were supposed to be on at separate times so that they weren't pitting those 2 against me. And the segment before us ran over. So, and being that this was live, I was in San Francisco at a studio at like 4 a.m. in the morning. You get taken there to do this. And they said, we're running, the segment before you ran late, we're going to bring you on at the same time. And so on my end, I was up against both of them at different times. And basically, one was defending their decision, and it was all about them defending their decisions and about the parents that complained. It really wasn't an attack per se on me, but it was an awkward position to be in when these 2 people are against you and made the decision to pull this book. So they basically just defended their decision and to show how that they were right and that this was not acceptable and that they don't teach homosexuality in school. And like, nobody's teaching anything. There's no agenda to be afraid of with my books. It's okay to be different is about being who you are, being unique and different, and being embraced as a kid for whatever it is. If you couldn't read like me and made fun of, it's like, it's being different and supporting kids. It's not about anything else. But again, there were these few vocal people that organized with the church, and in the name of God, I was promoting homosexuality in this book, which is not the case, as you know. And so I don't know specifically, it wasn't an attack, it was uncomfortable, but it was just them saving themselves.
That kind of leads to my next question. You briefly answered it, but how did you feel when you heard that your book was banned? Kind of where were you when you heard it was banned? Did you have a sort of sense of pride because this is something diverse that you bring into with your books, or how did you feel about it?
I was sort of neutral on it, and I think A lot of what I've done in writing books I've been somewhat naive in the process. It's just like I speak from the heart, and I'm like, I just, write these messages with my art and my artworks. But I think initially, my very first book signing, there was a family there, and they were really excited to meet me, and they thought an actual 6-year-old was illustrating my books. And I thought, oh no, that's not good, that they think a 6-year-old's doing it. And later in years, I really come to embrace that, because that's one of the strengths that draws kids into my work, is that it does look like they can draw. And therefore, they're already engaged in the process in the book. And so if you want to introduce something that may be a little complex, like taking care of the earth or peace, my simple art style allows that to happen. So I think at first, when they said about it being on the Banned Book Week, I go, oh, that's not good. And then I learned all about Banned Book Week, and it's really a celebration and quite an honor to have your book. So people have said, you should celebrate this. It's such an honor to have and it doesn't seem like that's what you want to celebrate over, but in my case, when you stand up for, say, the families that book represents, specifically you 2 moms, 2 dad families, there is a sense of honor to know that, you helped make a family feel that they fit in a land of books where they're excluded. And it's an honor. It's an honor to write about something, to be as inclusive and kind as possible, and have people pick it apart. And it's okay. It's totally cool, because I know I'm on the winning side of what's helping people come together and understand and grow. So if it's banned, it's banned. Obviously, people know how to find it. And I think even more so because it is banned, it's like, what is so controversial in this book by Todd Parr? It's like, I've got to see. So I think it's made it bigger,
Yeah.
How has having your book banned impacted the way you write, or has it?
It has not impacted me at all. I've stayed on course, and I learn and I listen, and it's 21 years of doing this. And I always say, in speaking to adults, it's just like, I am the same person that these books are, and I'm that person in person, and I'm speaking from the heart. And my keynote presentations to adults are very me, and my social media is me. And I don't try and pretend like I'm somebody else, because that's when you get into trouble. And I said, and the thing with me is that when you're invited to speak to 2,500 librarians or a few thousand teachers, you feel initially that you're not qualified, because I had to repeat 2nd grade because I had dyslexia. No one knew what that was then, or how to diagnose it. I struggled all through school, and as being a slow learner, and I barely graduated from high school. And you think of yourself, I'm not qualified to be up here in front of all these teachers and librarians. And then you realize that you're human just like they are. And when you own these things about your struggles, and my talks to adults are to purely motivate and inspire them and make them feel good. It's not about me. And oftentimes when people say, well, you have the coolest job writing kids' books, and I say, that is a cool job, but what's cooler is I get to write books that help make a difference. And I've been doing this long enough that I've seen worldwide how my books have impacted, families, kids, teachers. And that is an honor to be able to do that and do what I do. And I completely lost track of your original question about where I was going. Did I answer it or not?
Yeah.
I tend to wander.
You absolutely did. I was asking about the impact on your writing. Maybe a follow-up question to that. Let's say I was a writer and I found out that that one of my books was banned, and I called you for help and comfort and guidance. What would you tell me?
Well, I'd say after everything I learned, first, I thought it was not a good thing. And it's actually a very celebrated thing. And you really should be proud, because it means that you're doing something that is for the positive, even with the pushback, to help someone out there. And regardless of what it is, you got to know that if your book was banned, it's in because you were probably doing good and helping someone else. And that is the reward itself. But further to the original question now, I always want to keep myself in check. And, the current environment has had some feedback to me on my books, because as you know, I don't use skin tone colors. I felt the best way to represent being different was to use bright colors. And so I've had people say to me, they've analyzed all of my colors, my faces, and I tend to depict darker faces in sadder feelings or anger. And I thought, well, that's not a conscious thing, because I don't have a specific color for any specific person. It's just your yellow, blue, green. But some were insistent that yellow represented white. And I'm like, well, that was not how it was intended, but I'm listening. If people are thinking that, it's a different point of view, I want to listen. And I have also heard there's a group that's teaching to teachers outside the school about diversity. And they're using "It's Okay to Be Different" as an example of blatant discrimination and how not to teach diversity. And one of the reasons is because I've used bright colors for all of my people instead of saying they're black or white, and because I used "It's Okay to Be a Different Color" with a rainbow colored zebra and a black and white colored zebra. And that apparently represents a negative stereotype. And 20 years ago, when I wrote this book, I didn't know that a zebra may represent something negative in the African American community, or how people might see that. My goal was to simply say that celebrate whatever color that you are. So, people might look at some of this stuff that's come in and go, people just need to chill out. They need to relax. It's like, this is crazy, and I say, well, but I'm not going to micromanage my work, because there's no intention of ever excluding anyone. But I want to listen, because if somebody through their lens is viewing this, I want to say, how can I be aware of this and not do it again? There was an email yesterday about reading makes you feel good. And in that, it's going to the zoo. And I've got two pandas in there in the zoo page. And it's, I think, Ling Ling and Ting Ting. And I got an email from somebody that wanted to point out that in such a newer edition of a children's book, the blatant racism that was allowed in this book, because I used the names Ting Ting and Bing Bing. And they also referenced a wiki link to a negative connotation, which is not in my book. And I was like, but these are actual pandas. And these pandas were born, one was born in Guangzhou, and these are the years. And these are pandas. These aren't negative stereotypes. These are their names. And you're like, what made this person go out of their way to reach me to say it's blatant racism for names of pandas? And, it's like, well, they're names of pandas, first of all, but okay, I'm listening. what is it about that that maybe made you feel that I was? And so I always try and learn from that. But the difference in that is for you to say, Todd, you can't put a same-sex couple in one of your books for fear your books won't be sold in a certain market, or they'll be used as against you, or whatever. And no one has ever said that to me. And again, there's no agenda here except for inclusion. Inclusion and empowering kids to feel good about who they are, families, being better human beings, helping others. That is what my books mean. So I'm good. I'm good with pretty much anything. And you know, the bigger that you get and the more out there that you expose yourself and the more you present yourself, like, you know, you've written the kindness book and you do all these books, that the more success I have, the bigger target you become. And the bigger target you become is because people think that you have a specific agenda because you put same-sex parents in a book and you're out to put a spell over all these young children, letting them know that, you know, homosexuality is okay. And it's like, it has nothing to do with my books for 4 to 6 year olds. And people say, well, like, what age group do you write for? And I'm like, 4 to 6, 4 to 8, 3 to 6, and adult. Because there are a lot of adults that could use a simple picture book like mine about kindness. It's okay to be different. Just sometimes a few words in simple pictures help adults understand something better. And I do believe that people get caught up and forget, because kids don't start off with a problem. You know, they learn the behavior. And if you read that book, the family book, some families have 2 moms or 2 dads. And I've done it before in groups. Kids are just, oh, okay. But on the readings where in the beginning when that book came out, there were kids that had to come out of the event, you know, in order for me to read that book. And so the teacher would have to go get a student, take them out of this fun author event, pause. The kids would have to be removed because their parents did not want them to hear this book. And I think that causes more trauma to the kid being pulled in front of a group and taken out of a room than it does for, by the time you do that, that page has gone by. And does it even apply to them? Maybe if they don't have that kind of family, they don't even care. But if they do, they'd be like, oh my God, my family's in this book. And that's when you feel good. So I have long answers for everything. We should have booked an hour.
That is fine.
Sorry.
Oh, no worries. So what is your opinion on censoring books in general?
I don't think books should be censored, but I think, you know, the bigger issue is getting into is a lot what's happening on social media. And I think there is the responsibility within people to limit certain types of information that can be misleading, false, or cause destruction, or be destructive, or cause harm. And I think everybody should have the freedom to express themselves, and certainly in books. I just think that it's a responsibility of a facilitator of who sees certain things that it should be handled appropriately. You know, I've been a huge target of social media because of what I do and write about, and it's a brutal world, and people are vicious, and they're anonymous, and, you know, they fit a certain pattern. But I think misinformation now, you know, certainly misinformation spreads 6 times faster than real news. And as we're seeing all of this come up in social media and the platform, it is somebody's responsibility to better manage this. But I think if you were to pin the blame on one specific thing, I think it's impossible to manage it, because you don't know what's true and what's not. But when you're feeding people more of what they're looking for when it's false, then you are responsible for, you know, causing this. And I think the book thing is the family book appropriate for, you know, 4 to 8-year-olds? Yes, because it just states a fact. It doesn't have a discussion. There's no stop on that page and let's talk about what this means. It's just celebrating differences. So, but there's other literature that's maybe geared towards young adult does a 4 to 8-year-old need to see that? No, you know, but again, it's to the discretion of the facilitator, of the adult, or how they want to bring. I just think there's a responsibility. I don't think books should be censored, but I think everybody has a responsibility to be able to express themselves, but you should not have the ability to stir and create hate and discrimination and cause harm to somebody. And I think in looking at statistics for depression for teens and young kids and suicide rates, it's like skyrocketed since 2009. And I think that, you know, the like button on Facebook was created for a different reason than it's used. It was used to spread kindness and more love. And now it's become I don't have enough likes, I'm not popular. You know, and things are being used totally as they were not designed for. So yes, all books should have the ability to be out and be published, but there is a responsibility of someone to say there has to be control. And if somebody wants to control the family book, saying we're not bringing that in, that's their decision based on what they need to deal with. And unfortunately, some of the kids won't be able to see that, but probably they'll be exposed to that book one way or another through another individual or their parents that will help them. So again, another long answer, but I don't think that books should be, somebody shouldn't be saying what gets published and what doesn't, you know.
Brent, do you have a final question?
What advice would you give to librarians and teachers if when we are faced with people who might want to control books like the family book or otherwise ban books from our libraries and schools?
That, I think, back to the original thing about how do I feel about it, I think I'm most bothered by what has happened to teachers and librarians that have shared the family book. And I've heard of all kinds of situations where parents have come to school. There's been, you know, the school board's been involved. Teachers have been reprimanded. That's who I feel sorry for. That's what I feel bad. My feelings aren't hurt. I feel bad about the innocent teacher or librarian trying to do better in their classroom and is challenged by administrative levels or singled out parents who organize to take on a different narrative. And the teacher's caught in an awkward thing. I'm just trying to do good in my class, or the librarian, I'm trying to be more inclusive. And this parent is sending off horrible emails and, you know, threatening my job. And that's what I feel bad about. And I think, again, as teachers and librarians, you know your demographic for the most part, you know the environment that you're in, you know what you feel comfortable with, and more power to one that don't care and for the good of the children. But I don't want anybody to lose their job. I don't want anybody to be challenged or have an angry parent treating them badly for anything that they've done. And so if they wanted to read the book and they skipped over that page, I'm fine, because if that's where you're able to baby steps introduce certain things into your class without causing a town hall uproar, which can easily be done over anything, now, as you know. So I'm always on the support of the teacher and the librarian to say, at your discretion, and let me know if I can help. But this isn't just my book and the family book. This is school in general. You're just, it's hard enough to teach, and certainly under this whole environment, whoever thought. But the challenges that teachers and librarians face today, just on a normal day-to-day basis with, just the absurdity of people and parents and demands and accusing them of something. I don't even know. It's like crazy how you manage your day-to-day. I would say, like, if you drink wine, more wine. If you eat macaroni and cheese, go home and eat macaroni and cheese, whatever makes you feel good. But don't give up and don't stop reading.
That's great. Thanks, Todd.
All right. Thank you
so much for talking with us today.
I'll miss everybody at Longwood this year. I come back every year. I'll miss everybody. So take care, be well, and the end. Love, Todd.